The sound of breaking glass echoed across the street as Ethan Adams lunged forward, instinct taking over before his mind could catch up to what his body was doing. His 6-year-old daughter, Lily, stood frozen behind him, clutching her worn backpack with wide eyes as her father stepped between a well-dressed woman and 2 jeering men. "Is there a problem here?" Ethan asked, his voice calm but firm as he positioned himself as a barrier. The broken bottle on the sidewalk had shattered when one of the men had slammed it down to intimidate the woman, who now stood with her back against a storefront. "This doesn't concern you," the taller of the 2 men growled, his breath reeking of alcohol despite the early afternoon hour. The woman, striking with her jet black hair pulled into a neat bun and wearing a tailored charcoal suit, had maintained her composure, but Ethan could see the relief flash across her face as he intervened. "I think it does," Ethan replied, conscious of Lily watching. He'd always taught her to stand up for others, and he wouldn't fail to demonstrate that lesson now. "The lady clearly isn't interested in your company." Ethan wasn't an imposing man, physically average height with a lean build from years of physical labor, but something in his unwavering stance made the first man hesitate. His companion, shorter but stockier, stepped forward with clenched fists. "Dad," Lily's small voice called from behind him. That single word transformed something in Ethan's demeanor. His shoulders squared, his jaw set. "Lily, stay right there, honey." Without taking his eyes off the men, he added, "Madam, would you mind stepping over toward my daughter?" The woman moved swiftly, her heels clicking against the pavement as she positioned herself near Lily. "Hi there," Ethan heard her say gently to his daughter. "I'm Zara." The taller man took a step toward Ethan. "You should have minded your own business." "Harassing women on the street is nobody's business," Ethan replied evenly. "Now, we can all walk away from this, or I can call the police. Your choice." For a tense moment, Ethan thought the men might choose confrontation. His hands remained relaxed at his sides, but his muscles coiled ready. He'd been in enough scrapes in his younger years to know how to handle himself, though those days were far behind him. The shorter man spat on the ground. "Not worth it, man. Let's go." After a final glare, the 2 retreated, muttering obscenities as they crossed the street and disappeared into a bar. Ethan exhaled slowly before turning to face Lily and the woman Zara. His daughter was looking up at the elegant stranger with unabashed curiosity. "Your necklace is pretty," Lily was saying, pointing to a simple but obviously expensive pendant at Zara's throat. "Thank you," Zara replied, her voice warm as she touched it lightly. Then she raised her eyes to meet Ethan's. "And thank you. Those men had been following me for 2 blocks. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked, checking her for any signs of harm. "I'm fine, thanks to you." She extended a manicured hand. "Zara Holloway." "Ethan Adams," he replied, shaking her hand briefly, conscious of his calloused palm against her smooth skin. "And this is my daughter, Lily." Lily performed a small curtsy that made Zara's eyes crinkle with amusement. "Pleased to meet you, Miss Holloway. Just Zara, please." For the first time, Ethan properly took in her appearance, the quality of her clothing, the subtle but expensive watch on her wrist, the air of confidence that surrounded her even after such an encounter. She was beautiful, certainly, but it was the intelligence in her eyes that caught his attention. "Can we get you anything? Water? Or would you like us to walk you somewhere?" Ethan offered, aware that they made an odd trio on the downtown sidewalk, him in his worn jeans and work boots, Lily in her second-hand school uniform, and this woman who looked like she belonged on the cover of a business magazine. "Actually," Zara began, but was interrupted by Ethan's phone ringing. He fished it from his pocket, grimacing at the caller ID. "I'm sorry, I have to take this." He stepped a few paces away. "Hello? Yes, Mr. Parsons, I understand. Yes, I know the payment is late." Zara watched as Ethan's shoulders slumped slightly. Though he kept his voice low, she could sense the conversation was about money or the lack thereof. When he ended the call, he ran a hand through his short brown hair, the gesture betraying his stress before he composed himself and turned back to them with a forced smile. "Everything okay, Daddy?" Lily asked, reaching for his hand. "Everything's fine, Pumpkin." He squeezed her small fingers reassuringly before addressing Zara. "We should get going. Lily has a doctor's appointment, and I'm already running late for my evening shift. Of course, Zara replied, then hesitated. I'd like to thank you properly. Perhaps I could buy you both dinner sometime. Ethan stiffened slightly. That's not necessary. Anyone would have done the same. But Zara knew that wasn't true. She'd seen plenty of people walk by as those men had harassed her, averting their eyes and quickening their pace. Please, she pressed. It would mean a lot to me. Something in her expression must have convinced him. Okay, he conceded, but nothing fancy. We're simple folks. Zara pulled out a business card and handed it to him. My personal number is on the back. Call me when you're free. Ethan pocketed the card without looking at it and nodded goodbye as he led Lily away. Zara watched them go, the tall, lean man with his confident stride despite the obvious weight of his worries, and the little girl skipping beside him, chattering animatedly. Only when they turned the corner did Zara take out her phone to call her driver. She'd been walking back from a meeting when those men had started following her, having dismissed her usual security detail for some rare privacy. As she waited for her car, she found herself thinking of Ethan's kind eyes and the way he'd put himself in potential danger without hesitation. She hoped he would call. 3 days passed before Ethan found himself staring at Zara's card on his kitchen table. Lily was asleep, and he'd finally finished the pile of bills that seemed to grow each month. Between child support for his ex-wife's new baby, a clerical error he couldn't afford to fight, rent on their modest apartment, and Lily's medical expenses for her asthma, his paychecks from both jobs vanished the moment they arrived. The business side of the card read Zara Holloway, CEO, Holloway Innovations. Below was the address of a downtown high-rise and a work phone number. On the back, as promised, was a handwritten personal number. Ethan almost laughed at the absurdity. A CEO, of course she was. And here he was, a maintenance worker by day and a gas station attendant by night, barely keeping his head above water. He should throw the card away. Women like Zara Holloway didn't genuinely want to spend time with men like him. The dinner invitation was just a polite thank you, nothing more. But Lily had asked about the pretty lady several times, and there had been something sincere in Zara's eyes when she'd insisted on thanking him. Before he could talk himself out of it, Ethan typed the number into his phone and sent a text. Hi Zara, it's Ethan Adams. If your dinner invitation still stands, Lily and I are free this Saturday afternoon. He didn't expect an immediate response, but his phone pinged less than a minute later. I'm so glad you texted. Saturday works perfectly. There's a nice family restaurant near the park on Elm Street. Does 1 p.m. work for you? Ethan knew the place casual but still a bit more upscale than he usually could afford. 1 p.m. is great. See you then. Putting the phone down, he wondered what he was getting himself into. Saturday arrived with Lily bouncing off the walls with excitement. Is she a princess, Daddy? She asked for the 10th time as Ethan helped her into a clean dress, one of the few nice things he'd been able to buy her this year. No, honey, she's a businesswoman. She runs a company. Like a boss. Yes, like a boss, Ethan chuckled, combing Lily's unruly blonde hair, so like her mother's. Jessica had walked out when Lily was just 2, claiming she wasn't cut out for motherhood. The divorce had been amicable enough, but it had left Ethan a single father at 26 with minimal support. Now, at 30, he'd built a life centered entirely around his daughter. Dating had been out of the question between work and parenting. There simply wasn't time, and most women weren't interested in an instant family with financial struggles. Not that this was a date, Ethan reminded himself firmly. They arrived at the restaurant a few minutes early, and Ethan was surprised to see Zara already seated at a corner table, dressed in jeans and a simple blouse, a stark contrast to the formal business attire he'd seen her in before. She looked younger somehow and even more beautiful. When she spotted them, her face lit up with a genuine smile. Lily, Ethan, I'm so glad you could make it. She stood to greet them, bending down to Lily's level. I love your dress. Is pink your favorite color? Lily nodded enthusiastically. And purple, and sometimes blue. Excellent choices, Zara affirmed seriously, then straightened to meet Ethan's eyes. Thanks for coming. Thanks for inviting us, he replied, suddenly conscious of his best button-down shirt that had seen better days. If Zara noticed, she gave no indication as they sat down. Throughout the meal, Ethan found himself increasingly relaxed in her company. She spoke to Lily with real interest, not the condescending tone adults often used with children, and she shared stories about her own childhood that made Ethan laugh. "So you climbed out your bedroom window just to see the meteor shower?" he asked incredulously after one such tale. Zara nodded, her eyes dancing. "My parents were very strict about bedtime. I got grounded for a week, but it was worth it." "Daddy, can we see a meteor shower?" Lily asked through a mouthful of French fries. "Chew first, then talk," Ethan reminded her gently. "And yes, when there's one visible, we'll stay up to watch." "There's actually one next month," Zara offered. "I was planning to drive out to the state park where there's less light pollution. You both would be welcome to join me." Ethan hesitated, but Lily's pleading eyes weakened his resolve. "We'll see," he said, a parent's universal non-commitment. After they finished eating, Zara insisted on paying despite Ethan's protests. As they walked out, Lily spotted a small carousel across the street in the park. "Can I ride, Daddy, please?" Ethan checked his wallet discreetly, knowing before he looked that the few dollars there needed to last until payday. "Not today, sweetheart. We'll come back another time." "I'd be happy to," Zara began. "No," Ethan cut her off more sharply than he intended. "Thank you, but no. We can't accept any more from you today." A flash of hurt crossed Zara's face before understanding dawned. "Of course," she said softly. "I didn't mean to overstep." Ethan immediately regretted his tone. "I'm sorry, that came out wrong. It's just, you don't need to explain," Zara assured him. "I understand pride better than you might think." Their eyes met, and something shifted between them, a moment of genuine connection that caught Ethan off guard. Lily, oblivious to the tension, tugged at Zara's hand. "Will we see you again?" "I hope so," Zara replied, looking at Ethan with a question in her gaze. Despite his better judgment, he nodded. "I'd like that." Zara's smile was worth any future regret he might feel. Over the next few weeks, Ethan was surprised to find himself in regular contact with Zara. It started with simple texts, Zara sending a photo of a particularly beautiful sunset from her office window. Ethan responding with a picture Lily had drawn of the three of them at the restaurant. Then came phone calls after Lily was in bed, conversations that stretched late into the night despite Ethan's early shifts. They spoke about everything: Zara's journey from engineer to CEO, Ethan's dreams of someday starting his own contracting business, their shared love of old science fiction movies. Gradually, Zara became a fixture in their lives. She joined them for a picnic in the park, brought over homemade cookies when Lily had a bad asthma attack, and even attended Lily's school play, clapping louder than anyone when Lily delivered her one line as tree number 3. Ethan found himself falling for her brilliance, her kindness, the way she could command a boardroom but still get on the floor to build Lego castles with Lily. But he kept a careful distance, acutely aware of the vast differences in their circumstances. Then came the day he lost his maintenance job. Budget cuts, they said. Nothing personal. He still had the gas station gig, but it wouldn't be enough to cover rent and Lily's medications. Sitting at their small kitchen table that night, Ethan stared at the eviction notice that had arrived that morning, giving them 30 days to pay or vacate. He'd been behind on rent for 2 months already, scraping by with partial payments and promises. His phone buzzed with a text from Zara. "Dinner at my place tomorrow. I'm attempting lasagna, but I make no guarantees it will be edible." Smiling face with smiling eyes, Ethan stared at the message, his thumb hovering over the screen. How could he face her now, with failure hanging over him like a shadow? Better to end things before she saw the full extent of his struggles, he typed. "Can't make it. I think we should take a step back. You deserve someone who can match what you bring to the table. Thank you for everything." His finger pressed send before he could reconsider, and immediately his stomach knotted with regret. But it was for the best. Zara deserved better than a man who couldn't even provide stable housing for his daughter. Zara's response came almost instantly. "What's really going on, Ethan?" When he didn't answer, his phone rang. He let it go to voicemail, then it rang again, and again, on the 4th call he answered, his voice rough. "Please don't make this harder than it has to be." "What happened?" Zara demanded, concern evident in her tone. Nothing happened. I just realized we're kidding ourselves thinking this could work. That's not true and you know it, she said quietly. Something changed today. Talk to me, Ethan. He closed his eyes, leaning back in his chair. I lost my day job. I can't make rent. We're going to be evicted in 30 days if I can't come up with 3 months' worth of payments. The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long that Ethan thought she might have hung up. Zara, I'm coming over, she said firmly. No, don't, Ethan Adams. I'm coming over and we're going to talk about this face to face like adults. Put on coffee. I'll be there in 20 minutes. True to her word, Zara arrived at his door 19 minutes later, her hair damp from the light rain outside, wearing jeans and a sweatshirt a far cry from her usual polished appearance. Where's Lily? She asked as she stepped inside. Sleepover at her friend Emma's. Ethan led her to the tiny living room, acutely aware of the worn furniture and peeling paint that he hadn't had time to fix. Zara took a seat on the couch, her posture straight but her eyes gentle. So you lost your job and decided the best solution was to cut me out of your life. Put that way, it sounded ridiculous. I didn't want you to see me like this, struggling, failing. Ethan, do you know why I was walking alone that day when those men harassed me? The abrupt change of subject caught him off guard. No, I assumed you were going between meetings or something. I was walking because I needed to clear my head. My company had just lost a major contract because a competitor undercut us by using substandard materials. 20 people were going to lose their jobs because of my decision to bid ethically. I was questioning everything: my leadership, my principles, whether I was cut out for the role I'd worked so hard to achieve. Ethan stared at her, seeing for the first time the weight of responsibility she carried. I didn't know. How could you? I never told you. Just like you never told me how much you were struggling financially. She leaned forward, her eyes intense. That's the point, Ethan. We all face challenges. We all fail sometimes. Cutting people out when things get tough only ensures you face those challenges alone. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Zara had come to recognize as his response to stress. It's not just about pride. There's a fundamental imbalance here. You're a CEO, I'm a gas station attendant who can't even keep a roof over his daughter's head. And you think I care about that? Zara's voice rose slightly. Do you think so little of me that you believe I judge people based on their bank accounts? No, that's not. Then what is it really about? Ethan stood and paced the small room. It's about what I can offer you. You live in a penthouse, Zara. You travel the world for business. Your watch probably costs more than my car. What could I possibly bring to your life that you don't already have? Zara rose to meet him, stopping his pacing by placing her hands on his arms. You really don't see it, do you? See what? You bring authenticity. Integrity, the kind of courage it takes to step between a stranger and danger without thought for yourself. The tenderness I see when you're with Lily. Her voice softened. Before I met you, I had success but very little joy. My life was meetings and mergers and lonely dinners in expensive restaurants. You and Lily brought laughter back into my world. Ethan searched her face, wanting desperately to believe her but held back by his own fears. And when the novelty wears off. When you realize that my struggles aren't temporary, that this is the reality of my life. I'm not some tourist in your life, Ethan, Zara said firmly. I'm not playing at being ordinary. I grew up in a trailer park with a single mother who worked 3 jobs. Everything I have, I built from nothing, so don't tell me I don't understand struggle. This revelation stunned him into silence. In all their conversations, Zara had never mentioned her background. Why didn't you tell me? He finally asked. She shrugged. It never came up organically. And honestly, I've spent so many years proving myself in boardrooms full of people born into privilege that sometimes it's easier not to mention it. But I've never forgotten where I came from. Ethan felt shame wash over him. He'd made assumptions about her based on her current success, never considering the journey that had brought her there. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I shouldn't have tried to push you away. No, you shouldn't have, Zara agreed, but her eyes were warm. Now, about your current situation. Will you let me help? Ethan stiffened again. I can't take your money, Zara. I'm not offering charity, I'm offering a job. What? Zara took a deep breath. The facilities manager at my company gave notice last week. It's a full-time position with benefits, including health insurance that would cover Lily's asthma medications. The pay is competitive, and it would use your maintenance skills while also giving you management experience. I was going to mention it at dinner tomorrow. Ethan blinked, trying to process this. You'd hire me. The company would hire you based on your qualifications, which, from everything you've told me, are substantial. I'd recuse myself from the interview process to avoid any conflict of interest. This isn't a handout, Ethan. It's an opportunity that you're fully capable of earning on your own merits. The offer seemed too good to be true, and Ethan's natural skepticism surfaced. And if it doesn't work out between us, wouldn't that be awkward? Zara's lips quirked in a small smile. First, I don't intend to let that happen. Second, the facilities department operates independently enough that our professional interaction would be minimal if necessary. She'd thought of everything as usual. Still, Ethan hesitated. I need to think about it. Of course, she nodded. The position doesn't need to be filled immediately. Take your time. She paused, then added softly, but please don't shut me out while you're thinking. Looking at her, this remarkable woman who had somehow chosen to care about him, and Ethan felt something inside him shift. Maybe it was time to accept that not all help came with strings attached. Maybe sometimes, love was simply about supporting each other through life's challenges. I won't, he promised, and tentatively reached for her hand. When she laced her fingers with his, it felt like coming home. 2 months later, Ethan stood in Zara's spacious kitchen, cooking dinner while Lily sat at the island, carefully setting the table. He had taken the facilities manager position after a rigorous interview process with Zara's HR department and had quickly proven his value to the company. The job was challenging but fulfilling, allowing him to use both his technical skills and his natural leadership abilities. They had moved into a small but comfortable apartment closer to Lily's school, one they could afford on Ethan's new salary. Zara had offered to help with the security deposit, but Ethan had managed it himself, a point of pride that Zara had understood and respected. Their relationship had deepened, with Zara becoming an integral part of their little family. Tonight, she was working late finalizing a new contract, but had promised to be home for dinner. Home. It was still strange to think of her penthouse that way, though they spent at least half their evenings there now. Ethan maintained his own apartment, wanting to take things slowly for Lily's sake, but the lines between their separate lives were blurring comfortably. Do you think Zara will like my drawing? Lily asked, carefully placing a colorful creation beside Zara's plate. She'll love it, Ethan assured her, stirring the pasta sauce. The drawing showed the three of them standing beneath a shower of stars, the meteor shower they had indeed watched together last month, bundled in blankets on a hillside in the state park. The sound of the front door opening caught their attention. I'm home, Zara called. We're in the kitchen, Lily shouted back, bouncing on her stool with excitement. Zara appeared in the doorway, still in her business attire but with her hair down around her shoulders the way Ethan liked it best. Her face lit up at the sight of them. Something smells amazing. Daddy made your favorite, Lily announced, and I set the table all by myself. I can see that, Zara said, coming over to examine Lily's work. It's perfect, and what's this masterpiece? She picked up the drawing, her expression softening as she took in the details. Oh, Lily, this is beautiful. I'm going to frame it for my office. Lily beamed with pride, and Ethan felt his heart swell watching them together. When Zara crossed to him and stretched up for a kiss, he pulled her close, breathing in her familiar scent. Successful day, he murmured against her hair. Very, we got the contract and on ethical terms, no compromises. She pulled back to look at him, her eyes shining. How about you? Fixed the HVAC system in the East Wing and hired a new maintenance technician. And Lily aced her spelling test. I got a gold star, Lily contributed from her perch, where she was now adding extra napkins to the table settings. That's my girl, Zara said with genuine pride, and Ethan marveled again at how seamlessly she had integrated into their lives, how naturally she had taken on a role in Lily's upbringing. Later, after dinner was cleared, and Lily was tucked into the guest room that had become definitively her room, with stars painted on the ceiling and bookshelves filled with her growing collection, Ethan and Zara stood on the balcony overlooking the city lights. I have something to ask you, Zara said, turning to face him. But I want you to know that whatever your answer, nothing changes between us unless you want it to. Ethan raised an eyebrow, curious. That sounds ominous. Zara laughed nervously, a rare display of uncertainty from someone usually so composed. Not ominous, just significant. She took a deep breath. I want you and Lily to move in with me, officially, all the time. Ethan was silent for a moment, considering. They practically lived together already, but making it official was a big step. Before you answer, Zara continued quickly, I want to be clear that this isn't about finances or convenience. It's about building a life together. If you're not ready, or if you think Lily isn't ready, I completely understand. Ethan took her hands in his. Zara, stop. You don't need to convince me. I want that too. I just need to know that you're sure. Taking on a 6-year-old full-time is a massive commitment. Ethan, Zara said softly, I love Lily as if she were my own, and I love you more than I ever thought possible. I've never been more certain of anything. He searched her face, finding nothing but sincerity in her eyes. Then yes, we'll move in. Her smile was radiant as she wrapped her arms around his neck. There's one more thing. You're full of surprises tonight. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Ethan's breath caught as she opened it to reveal a simple but elegant platinum band. I know it's traditionally the man who proposes, Zara said, her voice steady despite the vulnerability in her eyes. But I've never been one for tradition. Ethan Adams, will you marry me? Ethan felt a surge of emotion so powerful it nearly overwhelmed him. 6 months ago, he had been struggling to keep a roof over his daughter's head, convinced that love was a luxury he couldn't afford. Now, this extraordinary woman was asking to share his life permanently. On one condition, he said, his voice husky with feeling. Zara raised her eyebrows, waiting. That you let me buy your ring. I can afford it now, he added with a smile, thanks to my excellent employer. Zara laughed, relief and joy mingling in the sound. Deal. As Ethan slipped the ring onto his finger and pulled Zara into a deep kiss, he reflected on how drastically his life had changed since that day on the street when he'd stepped between her and trouble. He had broken up a harassment, not knowing she was a CEO. She had fallen in love with him, not caring that he wasn't. And together, they had built something that transcended titles and bank accounts, a family founded on mutual respect, genuine understanding, and a love that had come when neither of them had been looking for it. In the quiet of the night, with the woman he loved in his arms and his daughter sleeping peacefully in the next room, Ethan knew with absolute certainty that he had found his home.